On the 12th of February 1989, a murder was committed in North Belfast that sent shockwaves not only through our community but throughout the world. Leading human rights lawyer Pat Finucane was murdered in his own home in front of his wife Geraldine and 3 of his children. And I can tell you, I was working for years on human rights, but I never felt the fear that I felt on the night that that happened, because the special branch had for years made threats against Pat Finucane. And it just struck me, you know, we weren't talking about Latin American countries, we were talking about here in the north of Ireland, and they had actually carried out that threat to have him killed. Now, there was police road checks had been in place close to Pat's home less than an hour before he had been killed, and they were removed by the time of the attack. Threats had been made in Castlereagh to Pat's clients that he would be killed. After Pat's death, lawyers and human rights groups across the world called for an inquiry into his death. The British government gave a commitment at Weston Park concerning inquiries, including an inquiry into the murder of Pat Finucane. The family were invited to Downing Street on Tuesday, the 11th of October, in the belief that an inquiry would at last be announced by the British Prime Minister. And while they had serious reservations and doubts, given their first-hand experience over the years in dealing with officials in the government, they were devastated to be told that no public inquiry would take place. That brings us all here this evening to show our support and our solidarity with the Finucane family. Relatives for Justice have repeatedly said over the years, when you lift the lid on the murder of Pat Finucane, you lift the lid on the whole policy of collusion. Many families here tonight have been affected by collusion, and they are saying loud and clear, we will not be deflected from exposing the real agenda of the British government, and that is to keep the lid on the full extent of collusion and protecting those within the British military and political establishment. But the Finucane family and those here present tonight have a message, and a strong message, for David Cameron. You will not succeed in preventing the truth about collusion being exposed. You think you might have might on your side, but we in this community and the family of Pat Finucane have right on our side, and the truth will emerge no matter how long you try to suppress it. I knew Pat Finucane personally, and over the years worked closely with him in supporting families who experienced bereavement and injury during the conflict. Pat was a man of great integrity and believed passionately in the rule of law, protection and promotion of human rights. He stood with families in their darkest hours, along with many of us working for truth, justice and respect of human life and human dignity. I was recently in the USA and raised the matter with the Brecon Law Society and the Ancient Order of Hibernings, mobilising support to challenge the British government's latest move, yet again preventing the truth emerging concerning the murder of a human rights defender.
Well, I think first of all it's very, very important that Geraldine Finucane has reminded people here in this community that not only were the Finucane family not dismayed or disheartened by the recent engagement with the British Prime Minister, but in fact have been re-inspired, if you like, to revamp their campaign to get the truth for what happened to Pat Finucane. And I think once again you can only say you can take inspiration from the Finucane family and their strength and personal dignity and determination. From a personal point of view, Pat Finucane was a friend of mine. He was also my solicitor, my family solicitor, my political solicitor, if you like, in terms of my political activity over the years. Our paths crossed not only from a personal friendship point of view, but also through the fact that a number of the people who were involved in killing Pat Finucane were also the same people who were involved in a number of attacks on myself, which resulted in myself being injured, but also critically Alan Mundy being murdered in my home. So, you know, our paths crossed in more ways than enough. I'm fortunate and, you know, lucky to be alive to tell a story. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's also a reminder to myself that others also need to be be maybe upping our game in terms of seeking the truth, because I think a lot of us over the years, took an awful lot, expected it as part of the norm, part as what you might expect for raising your head above the parapet, but that's not good enough. So it's actually important to find out the truth, not just to establish the truth what happened in either your own case or cases like Pat Finucane or the many other victims in this community, but also to ensure that it never happens again, that those people who had that impunity and that immunity have that removed from them, which will make them think twice before they ever take anybody else's life or try to oppress the people in the way in which they try to oppress us.
Well, it is good turnout, and it's good, that people have turned out here to support the family, because I think the family felt a bit isolated in London when Cameron and Patterson, performed their antics and gave the decision that they made, which has given family bad news in a hostile environment. So it was good to see people coming out to support the family. The campaign will go on. We'll just have to sit down now and work out, a revised strategy. But there'll be a new strategy, and we'll see where we go from here. I think the British government must be worried about the decision that they made, because it is an unlawful decision. They know that. It's not only in violation of the Western Park Agreement, but it's also in violation of Article 2, the European Convention on Human Rights. It's a clear violation of Article 2, and they must know that. So I don't know what they're doing or why they've come up with this decision. It was totally unexpected. We did expect a public inquiry, as discussed previously with the legal teams. So, we'll just have to sit down now and see where we go from here.
Well, I was extremely heartened by the turnout tonight. It was great of people to come out on such a bad night, and it was very nice to be able to explain our present position in a lot more detail, and just to let people know that we're not giving up and that our campaign is going forward, and we will end up with a public inquiry.
The importance of that public inquiry?
Well, the public inquiry will expose what happened in Pat's case, and also I am sure it will expose the policy that was played out by the British government and all its agents in the whole of the north of Ireland.
Are you hopeful of the Irish government's position in all of this?
Well, we met with Eamon Gilmore, and he was very determined that the Irish government would take a strong stand on this. So we'll see what comes of that, but certainly we'll be talking to them in the future.
And what of North America?
Well, North America, we have lobbied there over successive years, and our support there is very, very strong. The British government have tried to put their side of things forward, saying about what a wonderful idea this review is, and everybody that they've met who supports us has stonewalled them and refused to talk to us and tell us that it is a wonderful idea, because they don't agree with what they're doing.
Well, the importance is to renew the whole campaign and put pressure on the British government to put into place a public inquiry into the killing of Pat Finucane. And it was also a chance for this community to support the Finucane family in their struggle, because, I sincerely believe that when you lift the lid on the case of Pat Finucane, you lift the lid on the whole policy of collusion, which affected a lot of families who were in this room tonight. So we need that public inquiry, and as I say, we need international pressure, we need international criticism of the British government and the way that they treated the Finucane family, and we'll keep that pressure up. We won't give up.
What motivated me to attend is my mother was murdered on the 9th of August 1971 along with 10 other people over a period of 3 days, and we're hoping to get an independent international investigation, and I know the Finucanes need an inquiry, but the thing is, if the Finucanes struggling to get it, we're coming behind them. People need to get behind them to really push, because if they can break through, then that helps the rest of us break through, and that's why I feel it's so important to be here today to support support Geraldine Finucane and her family and their cause?
Well, we've supported the campaign for a public inquiry into the Finucane case for many years, and I thought it's important after the reverse of the snub in Downing Street last month that we publicly re-expressed our support for the campaign for a public inquiry. There's no other way, as Peter Madden was saying here today, to get at the truth other than to put key witnesses on the stand and to be able to cross-examine them, as well as an inquiry, an independent inquiry with full powers to demand the attendance of witnesses and the production of documents. That's what's required to get to the truth.
Because it was the Finucane's family's support group, I thought that being a victim myself, I thought there was nowhere better to be tonight. And I came along to support Geraldine, obviously John, Michael and Catherine.
And the campaign, where do you hope it goes from here?
The campaign has to succeed. The Finucane family have to get an inquiry, because if the Finucane family don't get an inquiry, there is no hope for any of the other victims.
And indeed, why do you think the British are so scared of this campaign?
Because it goes to the heart of the British government. That's where it started, that's where it stops. It's not with the soldier who pulled the trigger, it's not with the policeman who set you up, it's with the British minister who sat in 10 Downing Street around a table and said, take that person out, because they are succeeding in what they're doing. As I said earlier, the lawyers were succeeding, the Republican movement was succeeding, Sinn Féin at the time were succeeding. In the 80s, they had to stop that, and they wanted to stop it, and the way to stop it was to terrorise people, and to terrorise them through collusion. And that's what their position was, and it comes from Downing Street, nowhere else.
Well, tonight was a chance for the Finucane family to connect with the many, many families that have been affected by the policy of collusion. You know, a couple of hundred relatives here tonight that have had a similar experience to the case of Pat Finucane. They support the Finucane case, they want to know what's going on, because for them, breaking this case, getting to the truth of this case is effectively getting to the truth about the policy of collusion that's affected for them. So Pat's case and the struggle that the family are engaged in is symbolic of the wider issue, the policy objective of opening up that can of worms. So tonight was important to let the families know where the campaign's at. As Peter said, you know, there'll be lots more getting done. There's always more issues in this. There's a lot more work to be done. People know, you know, this is an uphill struggle. They're prepared for that. They've their sleeves rolled up. You know, yes, Downing Street in one sense is a setback, but there's many setbacks. So it's about people collectively getting together, uniting and pushing. The objective is to get to the truth of collusion. The evidence in the case of Pat Finucane is overwhelming. Opening that, touching on the role of Brian Nelson, touching on the whole policy, touches, as Alec Maskey said tonight, on the whole issue affecting everyone. So everyone are behind the Finucane family, and we're determined, we're not going away.